Moving on, and speaking of Boston, ladies and gentlemen, this week, all around the country, there were elections, as I'm sure you probably know, including right here in Boston, Massachusetts. We had a mayor's race here in Boston, and I'm actually happy to report that the union-backed Marty Walsh defeated the Bain Capital-backed John Conley. And look, I'm going to be honest with you, there were some candidates I actually liked more in the mayoral primary, but when it came down to just Marty Walsh and Conley, to me, the choice was actually pretty obvious, and I'm glad that Marty Walsh won. You know, I'm going to talk a bit more about Walsh in a second here, but I also want to mention another bit of good news, and that is the fact that Bill de Blasio won the office of mayor in none other than New York City, thus ending the Michael Bloomberg era, the horrible era of Michael Bloomberg, which was an extension of the Rudy Giuliani era. You know, people forget all the time that New York City has elected a ton of horrible Republican mayors. And the truth is, de Blasio seems to be a fairly legitimate progressive. Hell, he spoke at Occupy Wall Street. He ran a progressive populist campaign. And back to Boston, Marty Walsh, a labor guy. He won by fighting off all types of ridiculous negative attacks on being a union guy and to reaching out to other candidates, especially in some of the poorer neighborhoods of Boston. He reached out to former rivals like Felix Arroyo and Golar Ritchie. But I want to get to the kind of broader point I want to make here, is that both of these races, especially de Blasio's, to be fair, more de Blasio than Walsh, but both of these races actually do show that campaigns that are run on economic populism can win. And they did win. We've talked about it many times before on this show. One of the things we say a lot is one of the greatest mistakes that the left made in this last decade was ceding populism to the bloody Tea Party. And we did. The left ceded populism to the Tea Party, and that helped the rise of the Tea Party. America knows. They still know that the 1% is screwing over the 99%. That's something America knows. And the left drastically needs to step up and reclaim some of that populism that we've lost over the last decade. Reclaim economic populism, because when they run on it, a lot of times, most of the time, they actually can win on it. Even more so, the left, when it comes to these mayors here, the left needs to learn the lesson that so many of us have learned from the Obama presidency. And that is, we need, as citizens of Boston, as citizens of New York City, need to put all types of holy hell pressure on Mayors Walsh and de Blasio. We need to pressure them constantly to do the right thing. We can't just go, hey, we got the better person elected. See you next election. Goodbye. No, that doesn't work. It didn't work with Obama. We saw what we've gotten with Obama. It doesn't work. And again, look, both Walsh and de Blasio aren't perfect. They're not. But I honestly do think with both of them, there is a possibility, a legitimate possibility of making some actual tangible progress in both Boston, Massachusetts and New York City. The possibility is there. Now, us activists just have to make it happen. We'll be right back.